Well, the reason I was attracted to rugby is because I was bloody awful at football. It's as simple as that. Um, Obviously, growing up with my brother, he was a really good footballer, Rory. He got trials for Notts County, but Mum said to him, "You're not playing football," so he got stuck with rugby. But for me, it's like I was never good enough to play football, but I loved the physical side of things. I did judo growing up, I did karate, so I was always interested in combat sports. And then, like, my mum was secretary of a local rugby club in Blairgowrie. My dad grew up with playing rugby there. He was my coach, Jeff. He was my coach from under 12s when I started playing rugby. And he was a big influence on. But I've always been around a rugby family, and it's just I loved the physicality of rugby. It was tough, really intense sport. But again, the camaraderie you get from rugby teams is just something so different. I've got mates that I still played with for under 12s that I still speak to every now and again. It's like you make good mates for life in rugby. It's something different. But yeah, that was my big influence and how I started. It was very similar to Jamie Beresford. I went to university. I went and did sport exercise science at Sheffield Hallam. I went there to play more rugby, and it's like I enjoyed PE, so I did sport exercise science. I went there just going and not understanding what I was going to do after it. I had no idea. Again, 18, just wanted to go and play more rugby because I never did any age grade rugby, no representative, no county level. I think 1 year of county at Leicestershire, but not on any international radars, and I was just going there to play more rugby. And I'd got my degree, but it was literally one of those ones, the education was for me very secondary. I love my time at Sheffield, it was a great time, but I was in my last year at Sheffield, about to go and find a real world job, doing my dissertation. And like I said, no representative rugby. I got invited to go play Melrose Sevens one weekend, just off the back of it. I was playing for Rotherham Academy at the time and playing for the uni, just trying to get as much rugby in as I can. And then all of a sudden got invited to Melrose Sevens, had a great tournament, lost in the final to Bury Muir at the time that had Chris Cussiter and Mike Blair paying for it. But I went home. I was sitting in my garden, I think on the Sunday after the Saturday tournament in Melrose. I got a phone call, just recovering, enjoying the sunshine that was sunshine down in Nottingham. It was Roy Laidlaw, who was the head coach of Scotland Sevens. So we had an injury in Malaysia. We heard he went really well at Melrose. Can you come out to Kuala Lumpur? So I did Melrose on the Saturday. I was on the plane to Kuala Lumpur by the Wednesday, met up with a squad on the weekend, flew to Kuala Lumpur and started for Scotland Sevens then. And that was the springboard to my career. Did the Commonwealth Games in Manchester 2002 and then turned pro after that. But again, I said I was so late into rugby. I was literally doing my dissertation, ready to go into the real world, saying that's rugby career gone. But for one tournament, off the back of playing well for uni, that was the difference in my career. And like I said, I went on and played 105 times for Scotland. So it's kind of like that sliding doors or butterfly effect. I think these guys are going out to these colleges in America. That's how it can be. That's your one opportunity can come with such a small opportunity, but it can have a massive effect on your career. So, apart from that one Sevens tournament in Melrose, Sean Lamont wouldn't be a dot on Scottish rugby, but here we are, I'm one of the four Centurions. It would have to be my first cap. 100th was great, and it was something special to get there, but you can't get your 100th without getting your first. And it's the one that always sticks in my mind. It's one of the few games I remember really well. I remember the moment in the change room when Matt Williams, the head coach at the time, ran the squad. So it's 2004. I was one of the young lads. We went out to Gold Coast on the Australian tour. It was actually in New Zealand playing Samoa. Was my first cap. I remember we played Queensland Reds in midweek. Played really well for the game, and then got selected for the first team. But just in the meeting, not a clue I was going to get selected. The whole travelling party was there, and then Matt Williams read out the names and just started wanted down. So I was coming down the list. I'm thinking, oh God, obviously winger you do 11, 14, 15 towards the end of the squad list. And then he read out my name and obviously said, big moment. And for me, I was a kid, I grew up dreaming of playing for Scotland. My mum actually said when I was like young, three of my brother was 2. Mum said we'd both play for Scotland, and it so happened we did. But it was just a proud moment, like, as any rugby player, getting that chance to pull in the jersey for your home nation, and it's actually, you grow up and dreaming of that. It's such a proud moment. And that game, I got held up over the line. I could have scored a try on debut, but unfortunately I got held up. The ball popped up into my, I was literally supporting somebody. Ball popped up into my face, so I had to stand up to catch it. And by the time I found out where I was actually held up over the line, so I never actually scored. But yeah, it was such a fantastic moment, and it's one I'll never forget. So that was the one game I'll never forget. Never forget that moment. The time and dedication it takes to do something well. It's what I tell my boys as well. It's like, the only person that can stop you is you, but all that it takes is, you've got to understand the effort it takes. Like, pro sport is brutal. There's plenty of people wanting to put you down. You've got to have that self-belief in your own ability, and you've got to make sure you really are doing everything you can. I have a few regrets in terms of, never did the Lions. Would have loved to do the Lions as a pinnacle, like, as much as I did for Scotland. I haven't got a Lions thing as something special. But looking back, there's times I could have done a lot more analysis of teams, a lot analysis of oppositions, and that would have taken my game, I think, to that next level. But hindsight is 20/20, and things you do as a young player, you don't really pick up on, and then once you retire, you look back and go, I wish I'd done this. So my advice to young players is, make sure you're doing everything in your capacity to be that more rounded player. If it's extra review, extra skill work, you've got to have your time away, because you've got to have as much rest as anything else. Like, you've got to be fresh going into it, but you've really got to make sure you're doing as much as you can in terms of, are you really doing everything? Because there'll be times when you get players going, why am I not getting selected? Why am I not doing this? Why am I not getting a contract? It's like, have you done everything in your capacity to deserve that? And if you can generally put your hands up and say, I've done everything I can, but then sometimes that's life, and that's the way it goes. But I'm a firm believer of, what's for you will not go by you, and I suppose that's the only sort of advice I have, is make sure you're doing everything you can to get what you want. And that kind of works in all aspects of life. If you're not putting in all your effort, then you don't deserve it. With these top level players, I don't think there's anything you can do if you're not sort of there. It's one of those ones, you just get these players with incredible talent. I'll take Finn Russell, for example. I don't think, as much as however hard I tried, I would never be Finn Russell. And you can always aspire to be that, but I think people have, you look at Finn, I swear he watches the game. When he's playing rugby, the game goes at half pace for him. He can see these gaps. Whereas when I played, I swear the game was going twice as fast. So I was having to bloody catch up. But with one of those things, I think those really top players, they just have it. And it's one of those ones, because they're so exceptional, I don't think there's anything you can do if you don't have it. So for me, the advice would be, if you're not there, you're not there, but work on what your strengths are. And everybody goes on about, I've got to work on your weak points. Yeah, you've got to bring your weak points up to a certain standard. I mean, that's what I did. But make your points of difference world class. If you are a great ball carrier, then become the best ball carrier in the world. If you're a great passer, become the best passer in the world. If you're the best kicker, become the best kicker in the world. And that's, for me, it's like, certainly in Scotland we have this thing of, I've got to work on weak points. Like, but yeah, absolutely, do that, but make your points of difference world class, and that's what will set you stand. Especially in rugby, where there's different sizes for it. Even in same positions, there's different sizes. Like, you get some big nines, you get some smaller nines. You get big ball carrying number 8s, you get a little pocket powerhouse number 8. Same as wingers, you get the big 6'4" wingers, but you get the Darcy Grahams of the world. And it's like, each one of those, build on your strengths and make yourself world class. Well, again, for me, that transition, I know a lot of my colleagues, when they go into the real world, they do struggle with that, because you do lose a bit of your teammate, your camaraderie. You got this environment where everybody's rowing the boat the same way, in the same direction. And you have a lot of support. I know some boys leave that environment and struggle in the real world. I was very lucky, because I got to stay in my sport. I say there, I went into S&C coaching with the rugby, with first of all Glasgow Warriors Academy, then into Scotland Sevens, and then GB Sevens. So I was lucky. I was still in that sporting environment, still in that rugby environment. So you still got the banter. You have to obviously separate yourself a little bit. And as S&C, I was able to stick closer to the boys and being totally separate. But when you change from player to coach, you do have to create a little bit of separation because you're now coaching either players you played with or that know you. Do have to get that big. But I was lucky enough to stay in the sport, so it's still that same environment, and I loved it, and it helped me a lot. Lots of learning, but obviously now I've shifted. I'll say out of rugby, but I'm not really out of rugby. I'm still in rugby. So, but my transition was great. I've always loved coaching, and I went into S&C rather than the rugby coaching because I always saw myself as a good rugby athlete and not always the best rugby player. So with that athletics side, I always took an interest in strength and conditioning as a player. I loved my gym work. I think it carried me well. I wish I'd probably spent a bit more time working on my skills rather than the gym work, but it did me all right. As I always saw myself as a very average player, but I was really athletic with what I did. Obviously, same thing. My points of difference were the big thing for me. I made my ball carrying fairly world class, and obviously I knew the game, but yeah, I really enjoyed that S&C side, so that's why I went into the S&C side rather than coaching. But I just really loved making players better, even as an older athlete. When I came back to Glasgow and when I was at Scarlets before Glasgow, again, once I hit about 30, I actually realised that I was able to help develop young guys. Like I worked with George North at Scarlets, I worked with Tommy Seymour and Stuart Hogg at Warriors as he was coming through. Mark Bennett, there's loads of guys. I actually really enjoyed helping the young lads again. And you get to the point in your career when, certainly as a winger, as you get older, you get a bit slower. Again, that's why I moved into centre because I didn't have to be so fast. But I just loved coaching. I love making players better, and that's my thing. Is like when I'm doing rugby coaching at S&C, seeing those players develop is really rewarding. And I'm obviously going out to the collegiate rugby development camp this week over in Dartmouth with Don Waring and Kyle, and just the ability to go back and strap the boots on and do some coaching. I love it. It's just making players better. It's such a reward. You see these players develop. It's amazing. The big ones for me, especially when you're a young athlete, like trying to chase big numbers straight away, it's the biggest mistake. Like, especially rugby, it's trying to do early talent ID in a late development sport. It is a late development sport. So at 18, 19, you're not the finished article physically. Your time will come. But for me as an S&C coach, if I got somebody who could do the movements, didn't have to do like massive weights, if you do the movements and were athletic with them, that was a big thing for me. And you don't necessarily need to squat or deadlift, as long as you can do the right sort of movements, your mobility is good. It's the big thing for me, and the time will come. Like as you mature, you don't really start getting real good strength gains until you're 21, 22. Obviously you hear the freaks like Pollock at the moment, he's a young boy, 18, 19, or squatting 240. It's like, yeah, great, you get those guys, but they're also the exception to the norm. You hear about them because it's such a fantastic thing, but that is, again, your 0.5% as those are the elite ones. So you don't have to match that. The big point of S&C, really, you don't have to be massive, is to reduce your injury risk. If you're a little bit stronger, you can manage a bigger force, especially in rugby. Even when you go to university as a year one, you're playing against guys that are 4 years older than you. You've got guys that are 4 years more developed than you, 4 more years training. And in those 4 years, because you're at that early maturation, so it can make a huge difference in your physical ability. So if you're going to these universities, having some level of knowledge of your lifts and what they're expected of you, that's a good key start. If you're obviously then strong with that as well, it's a bonus, but knowing the movements are key. I have actually generally loved coming into FirstPoint these last 4 months, and it's coming at a really exciting time. I think I've been really lucky. All the staff here have been really welcoming, and obviously speaking to Andrew Keenan, who brought me on board with this. Just what we're doing here at FirstPoint, obviously it's partnered with Briar, we're part of the National Collegiate Rugby. The way that rugby is growing in the States as well, especially at the collegiate level, is a really exciting time. But it's also, for me, the faith that Andrew's put in me to grow the rugby program for FirstPoint is massive. That it does mean a lot for me, but it's just the way rugby is growing as a sport out there in America. It's so good. The opportunities that are coming along. I say this on every interview when I'm interviewing the kids. I'm genuinely envious of what they've got now. Obviously, when I was at uni in Sheffield at 99, 2000 time, rugby wasn't quite. There was rugby in the States, but it's not quite the level it was. Wasn't getting the recognition. But more and more universities out there are seeing the culture of rugby. I think is the big one that attracts it. Obviously, it's a great sport. I was speaking to Kyle and Dom from Dartmouth just yesterday, and Kyle said it really well. It's like you learn so much on the rugby pitch out there as a rugby player that it kind of combines well with your uni work, and that obviously high athletic demand, but also high educational demand. But the culture of rugby, every supports every. You want your teammates to do well because, as I said to you before, rugby is one of these weird sports that really is a team sport. You can't be an individual in rugby. You can still be a great player, and like again, you Finn Russell, you Henry Pollocks, Dan Carter. You get these stars, but those players will never do anything without the forwards. The backs can't do anything without the forwards. The forwards, we might argue, they'll do everything they can without the backs, but you generally need that team cohesion, and I suppose that's how it runs through with rugby out there. It's just, and for FirstPoint, I say it's the growth of the sport out there and the potential over the next few years. Obviously, World Cup is coming up there in America as well, both men's and women's. So it really is an exciting time, and I'm very grateful of. It's a little bit of a career shift in terms of coming out of professional sport. So I think I spent 26 years in pro sport, and obviously I'm bringing a lot of contacts and expertise with me into this, but doing something slightly different from pro sport, it's been great. And like I said, the team have been really welcoming, and I'm loving my move. As I say, it's such an exciting time. Generally, the pathway now is there. It's in place for rugby out there. Again, you look at the top teams, not just the top teams, but the rugby out there in America, you get pretty much just pro-level rugby in terms of you're probably doing 2 sessions a day, 4 sessions a week. Speaking to Kyle yesterday, you're talking about 20 hours of training alongside your education. So your player development accelerates. You're now going from maybe 2 sessions a week in a game, but you're going to what is effectively a full-time, high-demand athletic program. So you're basically a full-time pro by the wage, but you get a great education out of it. So you learn loads, but you also go in as a first year, and you're guys that are 4 years older than you. So your journey is accelerated in terms of you get support. You've got so much learning. And if you do well, you've obviously got the All-Stars, the All-American stuff that comes through. But now out there, you've obviously got the MLR draft. So you've got an opportunity of doing well at college, getting a great degree, and then the opportunity to get into that MLR, which is again a great pathway. If you push through MLR, then obviously you come back to UK for the Premiership, the URC, or wherever you are. And that's the thing. There's now a genuine pathway from college rugby into pro, and obviously that can take you anywhere. My biggest advice is be yourself. You speak to a lot of these coaches out there, and academics count, and obviously being a good rugby player counts, but they want good human beings. It's the same at all rugby clubs. If you come in and you're a real clubman and you want your teammates to do well, and you have that real team cohesion, that goes a long way, especially in rugby. If you can come and be a real team supporter and just help build and make that team better. Dom said it, and it's one of these things, and we say it as well with Scotland and all the things. When you put that jersey on, all we expect from you is you leave it in a better place than when you take it off. You leave it in a better position than when you picked it up, and that's the massive thing. And that's the biggest advice I can be a great human being. Like, university is a great opportunity away from your parents, get some independence, learn to be an independent human being, and these rugby teams want that and just want you to be a good human being, and that is a simple thing. Respect the jersey wherever you go.